What follows is for news and entertainment purposes only. Any use of the forthcoming information in violation of any federal, state, or local law is prohibited. Mike North, you are on fire.
You know anybody else that good?
No.
No, they'll tell you they are. They may think they are, but we're documented every single week. The eye is on us.
That's
and I ain't
right.
talking about the eye of CBS, the public eye. The first feeling I got when I won a bet was elation. The worst feeling was when I lost a bet and I wanted to jump off a balcony.
Give me a quick betting tip.
Yeah, do win and don't lose, but usually it doesn't always work out that way. How many times you heard this? I'm going to Vegas. I go, how'd you do? Well, if I lost $4,000, but you know, you go there to have fun. No, you go there to win. And that's what's wrong with people. They have the negative mentality in anything they do, including sports, before they even lay the bet down. So you got to be positive. Vegas Scores and Odds is the landing place that gave me an opportunity to handicap. They let me show what I could do, and there's packages, there's free picks. What does Vegas Scores and Odds do when you perform? They reward you, and they take care of you, and that's why we're ready to do this show.
The Vegas Scores and Odds Advantage with Mike North starts right now.
Scales down the ball. O'Donnell to Holt from the right hash. Angle to the left. Good placement. Boot by Eddie Pinheiro. Kick to the uprights. Then the kick is good for the win. Pinheiro with the De Niro kick to send Denver down as time expires. Bears 16, Denver 14. They escape with the victory on the road. Fade to black.
That's right. The Bears come out a winner in Denver with a 2-point victory. But if you were betting on the Bears versus the spread, you were probably a loser because I saw the spread at 2.5 right before kickoff. Welcome to Vegas Scores and Odds Advantage with Mike North. I am Aldo Gandia, Mike's wingman, and this is NFL Monday. That's what we're going to talk about for the next hour with a little bit of baseball sprinkled in. And we have lots to go over, so let me bring him in now. Mike North, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, Aldo. It's great to talk to you again as usual. Mondays, 1 o'clock. Wednesdays, 3 o'clock. The advantage, the Vegas Scores and Odds Advantage with yours truly and Aldo Gandia. We're going full board, and the Bears win a big game. I don't care how they won. I don't care how they did it. I don't care how it happened. I don't care what happened. As long as they won the game, that stops us from being 0-2, which after a team started out 0-2, only 12% of those teams end up making the playoffs.
That is so true. Now, last year was kind of an aberration in that you did have two teams that started off 0-2 and made the playoffs. But yeah, for the entire history of the NFL, it's not a good look to be 0-2, and this was a huge victory.
Yeah, it was huge, and really, I think the Bears did not deserve to win, but I don't think Denver deserved to win. Mm-hmm. I mean, if there was going to be a tie, this would have been the tie, but they win the game. They don't get a lot of style points. Pinheiro, he can open a restaurant now. I said on Twitter, check me out at North to North. Pinheiro's Ribs and Chops, Pinheiro's Taqueria, Pinheiro's Bar, you name it, he got it done. I think that, basically Khalil Mack said he gets the best seat on the plane going home. He's solidified himself with this team that still had question marks from what happened last year and in the preseason.
That's right. Now, how worried are you about Mitch Trubisky? Because this is his second poor performance. We can't gloss over the fact that he just has not looked good. He has led this team to just one touchdown in 8 quarters of football. Are you worried, Mike?
Well, yeah, I'm a little bit worried. I miss Jordan Howard. I don't care what anybody says, and I know he played sparingly again yesterday. I'll forever wonder why that is so underrated, him getting shipped out. And we had running backs that basically were doing what Jordan Howard did better than them doing. And I saw the running. I asked on social media yesterday, is it against the law to run outside the tackles? I mean, if you want to run into a cement ball constantly, run up the middle, you can do that, and sometimes it works. But I would just like to see a little more diversified running attack than they had yesterday. Their running game was predictable. They ran. I knew when they were going to run for some reason. And when Mitch passed, you just held your breath because, now the argument is he should take reps in preseason. He definitely is a quarterback that's a project. And when you're a project, you don't sit like you're Tom Brady. So whatever worked the first year, Nagy's fallen on his face with that the second year.
But Mike, Jordan Howard is not going to help Mitch Trubisky be a better quarterback. And it doesn't matter about who's running the ball. The fact of the matter is that he is not seeing his wide receivers. I think there was like 4 receptions to the wide receivers yesterday before that final drive where Allen Robinson caught a pass or two. So this is about Mitch Trubisky just not connecting with the wide receivers, and that's a troubling indication, particularly when it starts after an off season where defensive coordinators are studying what Trubisky and Matt Nagy do, and so maybe they've kind of figured out how to stop the Bears' offense.
Yeah, you know what? You bring up a good point. It's not on any running back to make Mitch Trubisky better. Here's what I'll tell everybody. He was better last year, and Jordan Howard's on the team. That's all I can go off of. But that's only 2 games. Only 2 games. And by the way, I was on the odds couple where I went 1 and 2. I did take Denver. And Carmen was surprised, and I said, Carmen, look, maybe the Bears win this game, and it's on tape, but we'll probably replay it on Friday, where I go, hey, they're either going to win 16-14 or 48-46 if they win.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
It ended up right at 16-14. I was just putting out 2 scores out there, and I won by half the hook, but I also, to your point, had the over in that game, and it was 40, and I said, look, they're going to open it up today. Both teams will be better. I know both defenses are decent, but it didn't happen. And I'll tell you what, the refereeing in the National Football League's at an all-time low because they've been so legislated that they're looking over their shoulders. And when you see Leonard Floyd get hit with an unnecessary roughness and the other hit that on Trubisky was just an absolute shame. I'm glad the Bears won, but they won because of that also. So, it evens out, I guess, along the line, but the Bears got away with one yesterday when Trubisky clearly was not roughed.
Yeah, that was a gift.
It's a joke
from the NFL gods. Yes. Now, one guy on Twitter.
And we wouldn't be laughing today if that was counted as a sack.
Mm-hmm.
That just kept the thing going. But you know what? That's what happens in the NFL. You get some breaks. New Orleans isn't getting the breaks right now. And I will tell everybody this. Last year in the first two games this year, the Bears are catching some breaks. Yeah,
that is true. And you mentioned New Orleans is not getting any breaks, and that has to do right now probably with the Drew Brees situation, because after the game yesterday, it was disclosed that he had a thumb injury. And I've got some sound here of Drew talking about that. I just have to find it. Where'd you go? Where'd you go?
That's all right. It's there somewhere. You got everything set up. You got everything down. You're the airline pilot that reports to work early.
That's right. All right. This is Drew talking about the injury. He definitely was sounding somber.
Yeah. I am concerned. I'm hoping it's not too significant. I'm hoping for the best and just preparing for whatever the next steps might be according to the evaluation.
Yes, and there is an early report saying that he's probably going to be out at least 6 weeks with ligament damage to that thumb. So I ask you, Mike, what do you think about Teddy Bridgewater taking over this New Orleans Saints offense? Is the Saints' offensive firepower greatly diminished, that they become a bad bet, or do you have some faith in Bridgewater picking up where Brees left off?
Well, of course it's diminished. You're losing a Hall of Fame quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater has proven that he can win in this league. He's got something that Brees doesn't have, and that's escapability. Everything else that you need, Brees has got over him. Throwing in the pocket, awareness, stuff like that. But Teddy Bridgewater is a decent second stringer, folks. And you know what? In the National Football League, no matter how you try to protect these players in preseason, this goes to show you, You know, they protect these guys, and then they go out, and in the second game of the season, you know, you're missing Drew Brees already. And there's other people that have been hurt also, so you're not going to run away from that. Bottom line is that if you're New Orleans, and by the way, the Bears play them, I think, in 5 weeks, we want Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, the last thing you want to see is Drew Brees heal quickly. But you know what? If Bridgewater can hold, and this is why you need good second-string quarterbacks, if they can go 3-3, if they can go 4-2, or even 2-4 in that division, they still are very, very reliable.
Yep. The Saints end up losing to the Rams in a rematch of that NFC Conference Championship game. The score was 27-9, and the Rams actually didn't look very good either in that game. It finally took Jared Goff to the fourth quarter to get that offense going, and so they scored points late, 14 in the third quarter, 7 in the fourth quarter. Again, end up 27-9 victors. Teddy Bridgewater ended up with 165 yards on 17 out of 30. He was sacked a couple of times. Both you just mentioned that the Bears have to play the Saints, but they're going to have to play the Rams too. I don't know if this Rams team is as scary as they were a year ago.
Well, we know the Bears aren't as scary as they were a year ago.
That is for sure.
I don't think the Rams are worried about the Chicago Bears. They're fine. They're going to be absolutely fine. I watched all the games yesterday. It was one of my picks. The Rams at Vegas Scores and Odds. I had a mixed week this week. The early games in college absolutely killed me. Teams like East Carolina, Illinois. Later on that, in the afternoon games, I ended up cleaning up, so it was a mixed day. Yesterday, I did fine. Another mixed day. I was 1-2 on Bears Barroom. I had the under New England, and I had some information that word was they were going to open it up. And I said, oh, my God, they're not going to take it easy on them. And I had predicted the under with New England on our show. And I said, put out on tweet, just be careful.
I saw that,
but
yeah.
I'm sticking with my guns. And guess what? They ended up going under the 40, but it was 43, and the over-under was 48. So they almost got it. So, you know, I just think that when you're talking about any second-string quarterback, look, you don't think the Bears are thrilled that they won't have to face Brees? You don't think they're thrilled as it looks now?
Yeah, absolutely, they're thrilled.
Right?
I'm sure that they would rather not face a defense and have a 7-on-7 drill for Mitch's sake. But yeah, the defense is, I'm sure, very happy they don't have to face Drew Brees. That's for sure.
Yeah. I saw my buddy Glenn Braggs on Twitter earlier before it came on. And Glenn was conversing with the folks on Twitter, and he brought up some situations about Stafford and Rivers, how they haven't done anything in 10 or 11 years, and he's absolutely right about that. So why are we rushing on Mitch? And then this is what's good about debates. The other guy brought up, yeah, but I don't think people traded to move up to Matthew Stafford or to Phillip Rivers, if you remember. So they trade. That's the stain on this, that the Bears traded up for Mitch Trubisky while Watson and Mahomes were in the back. Mm-hmm. So that's the whole situation there. And I would also say this, Eldo, and I want your opinion on this. Even though Stafford and Rivers' names were brought up, I'd trade Mitch for either one of them right now. Either one of them with this team that we have.
Wow.
What would you do?
Well, I made the comment today that I think that if Jay Cutler was quarterbacking the Chicago Bears,
Quit it. Well, yeah, but if he was, we wouldn't make the playoffs like we did every year. Mitch at least got him to the playoffs.
Well,
and help get him to the playoffs. I know the defense did all that. Bottom line is, I will say this to Glenn or anybody else. With the team we have defensively and with the pieces that we have skill-wise, which is better than any team that Matthew Stafford's ever played on, I would trade Trubisky for Stafford and see what we could do with him.
Yeah,
because he doesn't have the players on Detroit the Bears do.
Yeah,
give Detroit the Bears defense. And that's not on that's Detroit's fault. But you're talking about two guys that if, maybe the Bears need a veteran quarterback with this team. While you're in the Khalil Mack prime, while these guys are growing. And let's face it, we got lucky yesterday. Just like, Denver got unlucky.
That's right.
So, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at something, if the Bears, let's just say hypothetically the Bears traded Trubisky tomorrow for Stafford, I think people would be fine with it. I think people would be jacked.
I wouldn't cry about it.
No. If you said we're trading for a 37-year-old quarterback, we're hoping he can play till 40, but the window is open now for the Bears, Phillip Rivers, I'd be more concerned. But I'd still say we got the better quarterback.
Yeah. Colin Roberts in the chat room says that he's giving Trubisky until about game 10. If there's no substantial improvement by then his fate with the team is sealed. And really, this season is important for the Bears to evaluate Mitch Trubisky because he's going to be up for a contract extension at the end of this season in the 2020 season. And you don't want to invest, $20-30 million on a guy, which is the going rate now for a mediocre quarterback. So this is important that he starts to develop as planned this season, and he's not playing this caliber of football, by game 10. If he's not showing that he's qualified to be at least a top tier 2 quarterback, then Ryan Pace has some huge decisions to make.
Well, you know what? And here's the deal. Here's how you look at it. You just brought up Teddy Bridgewater. There's no doubt there's a drop from Breeze to Bridgewater. We brought up Matthew Stafford. I don't even know who the second-string quarterback is. I know Rodney Pete's gone. He's been gone for a long time. But there's a drop, no doubt.
Yes.
Phillip Rivers, there's a drop. Let me ask you something. Right now, how much of a drop is there from Trubisky to Chase Daniel?
Well, based on what we've seen, the way Trubisky's playing now, there is no drop.
There's not much of a drop, and that's the concern. We know there's a drop between Brady and his guy. We know there's a drop between Goff and his guy. We know there's a drop between Breeze and the second-string quarterback, Bridgewater. There's not much of a gulf between Trubisky and Chase Daniel. If Trubisky went down in the first quarter next week and it was 0-0, and Chase Daniel came in and they won, I mean, we'd probably just say, well, our quarterback at the second stringer is almost as good as the first stringer. Now, I want to just say this about Mitch. He did come through with that big throw at the end yesterday that kept the drive alive. So, I give him credit for that. He was 0-7, folks, on throws over 10 yards yesterday.
Yeah. That is.
And then he finally hit the big throw. So you know what? I give him credit for that. I'm not gonna. This ain't a bashing session. This is just what we saw yesterday. You're 1-1. Okay, 1-1 can compute to a couple things. It can compute to, hey, mediocre. It can compute to we just got off to a slow start, or it can compute to 8-8.
Yep. Stacy Hefner in the chat room says that she's sorry, but in her honest opinion, Trubisky still has a hard time going through his progressions, and he looks scared. That really shouldn't have to be taught to him by now. It's very discouraging, she says, and kind of scary when she looks at Mitch Trubisky, and it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, it is. Stacy's right, because you know what? He only played 1 year in college. He couldn't even win the job in college. Freshman, sophomore, junior. Couldn't win the job. So, I mean, this was a guy with only 13 games under his belt that Ryan Pace had to have and move up for with nobody pushing them, with nobody threatening to take them, with Mahomes and Watson there. That's going to be the downfall if it doesn't work out. You know what? He's done some good things, Ryan Pace, but this is his pick. Absolutely his pick. And if it doesn't work out, we'll see what happens. As far as an extension goes, man, right now I'd say no. I'd say absolutely not. And we'll see what happens when his contract's up.
Yeah, put the checkbook away when Mitch's agent
we got to
comes
see more, but you know what? We're 1-1, and I'm sure we will see more. I'm not happy with Nagy's play calling. I thought he wanted to make a point yesterday in the first quarter to his critics, and he ran the ball up the middle. Like, okay, have a little imagination with your running game. I mean, you're running into a brick wall. I understand. And he also plays cautious with Trubisky because he doesn't want him to air it out.
Yeah. And I at first wasn't upset with Nagy's play calling, but I read in the paper today that the defensive players from the Denver Broncos were calling out plays. And so Vic Fangio, of course, knows Matt Nagy's offense up and down, left and right, but you still hate to see the defense correctly anticipating what the next play is. And so that's disheartening from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah, you know what, though? That's fine. I don't think that will happen with the other teams. I'm going to give him a pass on that because, you know what, Fangio does know a lot of their stuff. And you know what, I'm sure I don't think that Nagy's going to revamp his playbook. They won the game. It was a huge win for them to get out of there with a 1-1. It's a road win. There's a lot of teams that wish they were 1-1 right now. So, you know what, let's take it as a win. We know we got work to do. I think the defense played outstanding yesterday. I really do. We finally got a turnover, which was nice to see. So you know what? We're still not going to get the turnovers we had, but I do like what we've done so far.
Yeah. I think that we could start seeing more turnovers. This was the first one, as you mentioned, the Kyle Fuller interception, which he almost took back for a touchdown. It was very close.
Just a horrible pass by Flacco.
Yeah.
Here, I'll give you one. Flacco is another veteran. He's been to a Super Bowl. But he made as many mistakes as Mitch, and Mitch is just in his third year. And Flacco's a veteran that's been to the Super Bowl. He made some real stupid, mindless plays, and that pass was horrible.
Mm-hmm. NB Dub in the chat room says that he doesn't mind the way Nagy called the game because teams don't win in Denver in September, and he called the game well enough to bring out a victory.
Well, that's what we're talking about here. If we lose, we're giving them a beat. Okay? Mm-hmm. So you like the way that the play calling was because we won. If we lose that game 14-13 yesterday or 13-12 or something like that, we're a little more critical. But he's right. And we ate up some clock. We did run the ball as a committee for a ton of yards, so I'll give him credit for that. So God bless. I mean, we win the game. That's all that that's all that we can go on. So we're on to Washington. And by the way, Dak Prescott, I watched Washington play Dallas. Mm-hmm. Dak Prescott is a monster. Now, you know, Ezekiel Elliott, that team, out of all the NFC teams I've seen, including the Rams, that team, after 2 games, would be my favorite to go to the Super Bowl on the NFC.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up Dak Prescott because I've got a clip of Jason Garrett talking about his quarterback after the game yesterday, the game that the Cowboys won 31-21. He was asked about how well his quarterback is playing. Dak Prescott, this is what he said.
Yeah, he's a pretty locked-in guy. There's no question he's playing at a very high level right now. I think he's got really good command of what we're trying to do. I think he's comfortable, and I think the guys are playing well around him. You know, the offensive line has been outstanding the first couple of weeks. He's been very comfortable in the pocket. The guys around him have been making plays, and you know, I think he and Kellen are absolutely on the same page as to what we want to get to and how we want to get there. And I think his execution has been really good.
Kellen being Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator. Yeah, and this team is hitting on all cylinders. Ezekiel Elliott had over 100 yards rushing, 111, a touchdown on 23 carries. They do look like a formidable team right now. There is no doubt about that.
Yeah, they do, Aldo. I mean, and Kellen Moore is one of my favorite guys of all time, the quarterback of the Broncos at Boise State, when they started to make noise as a major power in college football. I liked the play calling yesterday. It was unpredictable. I had the under in that game, and they got over it, and it was unbelievable how they scored in the second half. Washington basically got worn down. What they got now, they got Zeke Elliott, who just runs hard every play. You know, to try to tackle him all game long, and to try to get to Dak Prescott in front of that huge offensive line, it just took Washington out of their element, and by late third quarter, they were exhausted. They were exhausted. Great play, great play calling, great game plan by Dallas Cowboys.
And what did you think of Case Keenum, the quarterback that the Bears will face next week for the Redskins? He was 26 of 37 on the stat sheet, threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Do those numbers kind of accurately describe his play, or do you think he played worse or better than these numbers show?
No, he played good yesterday. I mean, it's not the Washington Redskins. I mean, don't forget, they almost knocked off Philadelphia the week before. It's not his fault. If you see, I mean, they gave up 32 to Philly. They gave up a ton yesterday to Dallas. So I'm not going to blame him. That's another guy that, sometimes he's a journeyman quarterback. He's a tier B guy, like you like to say, Alt. But he played pretty good yesterday. Jay Gruden, I think they coached a good ball game. They just don't have the players. They just don't have the players. And, let's face it first. They've had 2 tough games in a row, Philadelphia and Dallas, but those are teams in their division.
Right. That is.
God, am I on today, aren't I?
You're always on.
It's like I live east. It's like I live east.
You're always on, Mike. You're always on. That's just the way it is.
Come on now. I'm sparring away. I'm up against the ropes, and I'm coming back.
I think the big issue with the Redskins right now is their lack of a running game. They lost their starting running back to injury. Adrian Peterson came in, rushed for only 25 yards on 10 carries. He did sneak one in for a touchdown, but that they had a total of 47 yards rushing yesterday, and that's going to be a huge deficiency for them when they face the Bears. They're not going to get 50 yards rushing against the Bears defense. That's for sure.
Well, you know what? That's the tough thing. I mean, the Bears defense is going to keep them in every ball game. I mean, we know this. If we can improve defensively, if we can prove defensively, I mean, if we can prove offensively with the defense that we got, with a kicker finally, we're in good shape. I mean, I read where my buddy Ben Maller said Eli Manning has a 500 lifetime record, 116 and 116, as the Giants starting quarterback. But he's got 2 Super Bowls. But really, think about that. You would think Eli Manning would be 30 or 40 over 500. It hasn't happened that way. But he did get him 2 Super Bowls, whether they backed into him or not. So, you know what? I just think that some years you got luck, some years you don't. But you know what? I think Case Keenum, I think all the quarterbacks in the league could come and bite you for the most part. Look at what happened yesterday with Indianapolis, with Brissett knocking off Mariota in Tennessee.
Yep.
Who thinks that's going to happen after Andrew Luck ends up retiring, right?
Right. Well, you brought up Eli Manning. His numbers, 26 out of 45, 250 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And in the press conference afterwards, Pat Schumer did not unequivocally say that Eli Manning was starting next week. And on this morning's ESPN show, Get Up, with your old pal Mike Greenberg, he asked Rex.
I watched the other guys, Golick and Wingo.
Yeah, they're good too.
We got it covered like a blanket.
There you go. Rex Ryan was asked, should Daniel Jones be the starter next week? And this is what Mr. Ryan said.
No. I think if they're going to go to Daniel Jones, it's going to be after the bye. It's too early to do it right now. Look, their problems are a lot bigger than just Eli Manning. Their problem is they can't stop anybody. Yeah. This defense is horrendous. And so right now they got bigger issues.
That is so true. It's a bad football team. I mean, they're like Miami Dolphins bad, with the exception of they've got a great running back in Saquon Barkley, but the defense is awful. They have no wide receivers, and so why throw the kid in there when he might get killed with this offensive line? What do you think?
Well, I think you got to wait. I think you wait. I'm with Rex Ryan on this one. I think you wait on the situation. Barkley had a pretty good day yesterday. They lose 28-14. They started out good, but you know what? Here's the thing: Eli Manning is not a threat to run. Not that that's the most important thing, but he's a statue as a quarterback. And I think quickly in the National Football League, that's going out of style. Mm-hmm. The guy that drops back and stands there, pumps the ball twice, and then you better get rid of it or what have you. Oh, by the way, one thing you don't want to get rid of, folks, is the free pick line tonight on Vegas Scores and Odds. Make sure you check 1-800-808-3429. Free picks up 1-800-808-3429. Follow at Vegas Scores and Odds at VSAO Sports. We're almost to 600, folks.
Nice.
We're almost to 600. We're like 18 away. I remember we started was 485. So help out. Make sure you all the folks at the Bears Bar Room, anybody that's following the Bears Bar Room. By the way, when I started the Bears Bar Room, all the hard work we've done. We started, same thing was at Bears Bar Room. We almost got 10,000 now.
That's
at
right.
Bears Bar Room. We're
That's
just
right.
about 300-400 short of getting 10,000, which would be a great achievement. So, free pick line, 1-800-808-3429. Also go to the front page. Tony Sacco's on fire right now in college football. I think he's won 11 straight. He's on fire right now
Nice.
in college football. A lot of the other guys are getting the job done. Go check out those handicappers at VSAO at Vegas Scores and Odds. Eldo?
Well, it's going to be interesting what the handicappers have to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers because, like Drew Brees, their quarterback, the Steelers quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, was injured in yesterday's game, and apparently it's an elbow injury that's going to keep him out the entire season. So that brings in Mason Randolph, who played yesterday and received respect from his offensive lineman. This is David DeCastro talking about the new quarterback for the Steelers, Mason Randolph.
I was really impressed, really proud of him, how he came in ready to go. Knew the playbook, had a big command, was mixing up the cadences too. So, that was impressive. I wish I could have got a win for him.
He's a former number 1 draft pick, and now everybody has to figure out just how effective this offense can be with Mason Randolph at the helm, and no Le'Veon Bell, no Antonio Brown, who we'll talk about a little later because he's in even more trouble. But
They're done. They're done. Pittsburgh's done.
Do you think so?
Period. I thought they were going to lose this week. I just think when you lose Bell, when you lose Brown, and I brought up the point that, the Raiders won last week without Brown, but the Pittsburgh Steelers lost without Brown. Well, guess what? They lost again without Brown. You can't lose players like Bell and Brown regardless. And you know what? I don't blame them for getting rid of that pain in the ass. The Bell thing, same thing. I mean, to me, I always thought playing for Pittsburgh would be the coolest thing. They wanted to go elsewhere. Brown's talked his way into a better deal now. Tom Brady's got himself a target. I mean, he said he should have hit him maybe 4 or 5 more times yesterday. So, the Steelers, I think, are finished.
And there's a lot of people calling for Mike Tomlin's head in Pittsburgh. He's had
That will come at the end of the year, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that guy has had a winning record. He's had some success, but sometimes after a while, I don't know how long he's been there, but it's over 10 years.
Well, he's been there as long as Big Ben is, and without Big Ben, how good is this team? I believe this. The quarterback is the most important position in the game of football. Mm-hmm. But to me, without Ben Roethlisberger guiding Pittsburgh, that's a huge drop. This is another deal where you have a great first-string quarterback. You just hope your second-string quarterback can be serviceable. See, the Bears, like I said, one of the few teams where there's not much disparity between 1 and 2.
Yeah. I'm not ready to totally throw the terrible towel in on the Steelers yet. Mason Randolph was 12 of 19, threw 2 touchdowns. He was picked off once. I think that if Tomlin makes the necessary adjustments, which is run the ball more often, he's got a good running back in James Conner. He's got the rookie Benny Snell. So they've got the rushers, the running attack to support a young quarterback, and their wide receivers aren't that bad. Juju Smith-Schuster, James Washington, those guys are promising young wide receivers. So I'm not predicting they're going to make the playoffs. But
Do you think Juju Smith's first name would still hold if he was Yiddish? As I'm watching football, those things go through my mind. What happens if he was Jewish? What happens if he was Jewish and his mom named him Juju? Huh? Come on now.
That's a good one, Mike.
Come on, I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I think they're dead, Aldo. I think they're dead. They're 0-2, right?
Yes, they're 0-2, and they go to San Francisco next week.
Oh, and San Francisco did them a favor by beating up on Cincinnati.
That's right. That was.
And by the way, nobody talking about San Francisco today. They were an underdog, but it was like basically a picket game. I should have taken this game. I should have bet it. I mean, I put it up on Vegas Scores and Odds, but I didn't do nothing with it. And I said to myself afterwards, sometimes too much. I read so much information on this game that it sort of clouded me. So I said, you know what? A lot of people like this way with Pittsburgh. A lot of people like that way. I'm just going to stay away. But I really loved San Francisco. And San Francisco, hey, there's a team. Now there's a team on the come. Yeah. That's a team you got to be happy about. They played good football yesterday, and they beat a Cincinnati team that on the road won last week.
That's right. They dominated the Bengals 41-17 on the road in Cincinnati. They scored 14 in the first quarter, 10 in the second quarter, 10 in the third quarter, and then another touchdown in the fourth quarter. Jimmy Garoppolo was 17 out of 25 for 297 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. The only blemish for the 49ers is that they lost their all-pro left tackle, Joe Staley, to injury, and this was head coach Kyle Shanahan talking about the injury to Staley.
Anytime you lose your left tackle, it's always significant, especially when the guy who backed him up, we lost in preseason. So, we got School, we got Brunskill, guys will have to step it up. Unfortunate for Joe. I know how bad he wants to be out there, but once we accept the injury, at least we'll still get him back later this year.
Going to be interesting to see if the Steelers can next week, if they can take advantage of the fact that they're on their third string left tackle and get to Jimmy Garoppolo's blind side there. So that's an interesting development.
But they don't have Ben.
Yeah, but Mason Rudolph.
Right?
Mason Rudolph. He's going to be the next big star in football.
You got Pittsburgh taking advantage of San Francisco because their left tackle's out. Are you kidding me? Ben Roethlisberger's not playing.
I know.
Are you kidding me? They threw a victory party last night when they found out San Francisco. They haven't even played them yet. They popped champagne. It's sort of like knowing you're not going to play Drew Brees. If you know you're not playing Brady, if you know you're not playing Roethlisberger, if you know you're not playing Brees, like the old days, if you knew you weren't playing Montana, Marino, you throw a party.
That is true. But Big Ben hasn't been the same quarterback for the last couple of years. He's wearing down, 37 years old. He hasn't done anything this season, and he didn't do anything last season.
You're not a Big Ben guy.
Well, I just think...
What was it, those 2 Super Bowls, Dahlia?
Big
Ben has been as good a quarterback in this league as anybody in football except Brady over the last 15 years.
What have you done for me lately, Big Ben? That's the key here. And lately, he just is not the same quarterback. When was
the last time they were in the playoffs?
Who, the Steelers?
Yeah.
I'd have to double check that. But
I'm not exactly sure. But Big Ben is as good a quarterback as there is in the league. An injury, I'm not going to blame him for getting hurt. The guy is getting older. There's no doubt about it. But he's been better than Rivers. He's been better than Stafford. He's won more Super Bowls than Drew Brees. He's won more, you know what I mean? So outside of Brady, when Peyton Manning, when they were calling him the best team in football or the best quarterback in football, Big Ben was staying right with him. But you're right, he's 37 years old. But quarterbacks nowadays usually can play later. But yesterday, a couple of the old guard, Drew Brees and Big Ben, get hurt.
Yep. I think that Ben has taken more punishment than the average quarterback, and so he's 37 years old, but in football years, I think he's in his 50s. I wouldn't be surprised if he hung it up after this injury. The thing is that there's a lot of money. I think he's got 3 years left on his contract, so there's some guaranteed dollars he may not want to walk away from. But
we'll see what happens. You know what? I'm sure he's got plenty of money, but if he can't perform, he's good. He knows. I think these guys know, like even Drew Brees has got to be wondering today. I know he's got 6 weeks to come back, but you know what? When you're in your 30s or late 30s or 40s, the questions will be asked. I mean, look, there's no doubt the young guard is starting to take over. The Mahomeses of the world, the Watsons. But Tom Brady's still the big dog, and Tom Brady's 42 years of age, and he's just a freak.
He truly, truly is. There's no doubt about that, but I don't know. I'm not saying the Steelers are going to go to San Francisco and win, but I'm saying that that's not a gimme game. That's going to be a tough game.
I'm telling you it would have been an easier game if Ben's playing. If you're telling me
I'm with you.
that after one game that you are. I mean, you're talking better about Rudolph than you are about. I know. I could just tell you don't like Roethlisberger for some reason. You don't like the guy's accomplishments. I mean, you'll stand up to a knife wielding man who bum raps Trubisky, but you're giving Roethlisberger a kick in the ass. I find that hard to believe, Aldo.
All right, we're moving on.
If he plays, I'll tell you what. If he's healthy, I trade Mitch for him.
What?
Wait, did you just say what?
You would trade
Trubisky for Big Ben?
Well, if he's
did you just say what?
If he's healthy, but a 37-year-old.
Did you just say what to Big Ben Roethlisberger? And you keep Mitch Trubisky, or Rivers is the same age. Brees is older. Would you trade Mitch for Drew Brees with a 2-year deal?
Well, I mean,
to get that Super Bowl. Because Khalil Mack doesn't have. He's got a 4-year deal. You know what I'm trying to tell you is the Bears got a short window of being, I think, dominant. I mean, I think they're a dominant defense, but how long can that last?
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you.
That's all I'm saying,
Yeah.
Aldo. I know it sounds far-fetched. It sounds crazy. But Joe Montana, when he was finished, got traded by the 49ers to the Chiefs, and they made the playoffs with him. And he was 38 years old.
That is true. That is true.
That's all I'm saying. Could we make the playoffs with Rivers? And you know what? I'm not a Rivers guy. I like Mitch. I told everybody don't panic over Mitch.
Right.
But I mean, I think this team defensively, if we had a McMahon type with the defense that we have, how much of a difference is there between the 85 Bears and this team if we have a quarterback that's proven to be a pedigree? You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
That's why we're hoping Mitch turns it around.
Absolutely. And 2 games into the season, so I agree with you. Let's not panic on Mitch Trubisky, but he definitely needs to start showing some improvement. And starting with Washington would be a great thing on Monday Night Football against a Washington team that's hurting and not playing well. All right.
If we win 10-9, I won't care as long as we win.
I hear you. Absolutely.
And by the way, you know what? Here's another thing. Mitch didn't turn the ball over yesterday.
Correct.
I mean, that's another thing in his favor. And it's not like he was dreadful. I mean, you know, I've seen quarterbacks have 4 interception days already. So I'm happy with the team. I'm happy we won. If we would have lost, it'd be a different show today.
But part of the reason he didn't throw any interceptions is because he's hardly throwing to the wide receivers because Matt Nagy is afraid that he's going to throw an interception. That's part of the issue.
Tell you, Robinson did okay. The other guys, Taylor Gabriel made a nice play, but yeah. I mean, I don't care how we get it done. But you're right. I mean, Tariq Cohen's disappeared.
I know.
You know, Tariq Cohen is not the same player. He's not for whatever reason that he was last year. I think teams are ready for him. He's more of the hunted guy. It just seems like all of a sudden he's taken somewhat of a diminished role, doesn't it?
Well, his snaps are reduced with the addition of David Montgomery, so it'll be interesting. I think it's a long season. I think you're going to see some games where Cohen is going to get a lot more snaps than he has the first 2 games, and there's going to be some games where he's going to disappear because there's a lot of firepower. I mean, you talk about Cordero Patterson. He had the best run of the day yesterday, that 40-plus yard run, and he was only on the field for 3 or 4 plays that I saw, and so
I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, there's something
you go
weird.
out and get a guy like that. He looked clearly as one of the fastest guys on the team on those plays.
He's fast and strong.
There's somebody that's got to get more playing time. It's him.
Indeed. All right, I want to move on to the Patriots game, 43-0. You talked about it earlier, but after the game, Bill Belichick was asked about Antonio Brown and how he played. This was the exchange between him and the media.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it on the film. I mean, it's 1 week. There's a lot of things we can work on, but it's good to have him out there.
Belichick was asked what led to the decision to play Antonio Brown this week, and this is what he said.
Yeah, I'll talk about the game. I've already commented on that. I'm not going to say anymore.
Brown got a lot of work early in the game, and Belichick was asked if that was pre-planned.
No, we run the offense. Try to throw the ball to guys open, Ben. Haven't changed that in 20 years.
Would you have you ever interviewed Bill Belichick?
I love him.
I hate that guy.
I love him.
You love him. Why? He's a terrible interview.
Because he doesn't even answer the question. Hey, did you have were you regular this morning? Well, I just got to play the game and just do what we got to do. What did you have? I mean, are you constipated? Well, we just, we didn't think we'd get him in as much. I mean, he doesn't even listen to the question. He just beats around the bush. I thought they gave him a hard time the other day, though. I give the press in Boston kudos for, pounding him a little bit about the Antonio Brown situation. He's the coach of the football team. They went and picked him up. I read Nancy Armour in the USA Today. The Patriots have no shame. Well, when they're hoisting the Super Bowl trophy, they may not have any shame, but guess what? I would say this. Until it's more than a he said, she said, then the guy should be able to play football, I guess. I mean, I'm more mad at him for what he did with Oakland. He just talked himself right out of Oakland to get himself in this situation. So, I'm seeing where the NBA is going to start fining up to $10 million teams with tampering. I think maybe Goodell should get off his rear end and consider doing the same thing, because it still reeks that New England somehow got the jump on everybody else.
Yeah, that is a bit fishy. There's no doubt about it. And Antonio Brown is even more trouble. Sports Illustrated released a story today that accuses Antonio Brown of having another untold account of sexual misconduct, plus that he was involved in some charity auction theft, that he's had multiple domestic incidents, and a long list of unpaid debts. And this is a report by Robert Klemko of Sports Illustrated. He's had numerous conversations with people who have dealt with Antonio Brown, as well as reviewing of court and police documents. It again paints Antonio Brown in a very, very negative light. I wonder if this guy's even going to be able to finish the season as a New England Patriot based on the legal issues, and the NFL might crack down on Mr. Brown.
I'll tell you what, back in the day before there was Twitter and social media and Facebook and all that, and there were so many TV stations, Sports Illustrated used to be the hammer. And I haven't seen the article yet. I don't have any doubt that this guy basically is telling the truth for the most part. Mm-hmm. And I will also say this, that Antonio Brown, if anything, the Steelers, from what I'm understanding, their head coach deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for covering up so much stuff over the years. Mm-hmm. You think that, a couple clubhouse incidences were the only things that happened at Pittsburgh? From what I'm hearing, it was almost a weekly occurrence of issues. And Tomlinson probably is owed his job basically because he kept that team together with all the, the astronomics of this guy Antonio Brown. So, you know what? I'm with you. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to finish out the season, especially if more stuff starts leaking out. Because once something like Sports Illustrated comes out with something, then you may see those other ladies who were involved negatively with him start to come out.
Right. I think it's
been nothing but a nightmare.
It really has for the New England Patriots, and it's terrible for the NFL that Antonio Brown is the lead story almost every night on SportsCenter or whatever sports show you watch, because it's just not a good look for the NFL. This issue needs to be resolved quickly by Roger Goodell, and hopefully, some of these accusations are not true because they involve, some domestic violence stuff, and so you'd hate to see that be the reality, but at the same time, you hope that somebody's not lying about it. It's an ugly, ugly, ugly situation.
It is. In New England, I mean, they've opened up strong, and, I think they're good at getting the jump on people. I'm not saying that Belichick was tampering or anything else, or that New England was tampering or anything else, but they're always good at not being afraid to grab a player when other teams hem and haw, and this is one of those times they went after him. Now, if it ends up that there's more stuff to come out, I don't know what Goodell's going to do. I haven't heard him. Roger Goodell hides stuff.
He really does. Yes, he does.
I have never seen a commissioner making as much money as he does.
I know.
When there's major issues on the table, just you'll see him waving at games. He doesn't do much.
Yep. It is a problem. He should be out in the open, at least telling people we're looking into this, or have a representative of the NFL, whoever's in charge of, handing out suspensions or whatever. Somebody make a public statement assuring fans that the integrity of the game it can still be trusted and that they're looking into this. But instead, there's no comment, and that makes the situation even bleaker looking. All right,
It does. I'll tell you what, though. He had 4 catches yesterday. They win the game.
Yeah.
I still think there's going to be some weeks where they have difficulty, but, they don't miss Gronk. They don't miss anybody.
My
they
goodness.
Just get back. And I know they played a crappy team, but they still, they just are just so systematic in what they do.
Yep, and when you play a crappy team, you should win by the lopsided score of 43-0. It shows how good of a team you are, and they went out and did it. Now, the Baltimore Ravens won their game 23-17, and again, Lamar Jackson, the quarterback of the Ravens, put up some incredible numbers: 272 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Then he added 120 yards rushing. And head coach John Harbaugh was asked about how are opposing teams going to stop your quarterback?
This league has a lot of smart people and a lot of great players. And as Lamar well knows, they'll be chasing our scheme. We'll play one of the best teams in the league next week in Kansas City. The stadium will be rocking. It'll be deafening. And we're going to have to be a much better football team next week than we have been last week or this week.
That is true. That is a huge game next week. The Ravens and Kansas City Chiefs at Baltimore. That's going to be a fun game to watch, and it's going to be interesting to see these 2 young quarterbacks, Mahomes and Jackson, square off. Mahomes is definitely the best passer. Jackson didn't have as good a game throwing the ball yesterday as he did in week 1, but nonetheless, he's a dual weapon. He's going to represent a great challenge to that Kansas City Chiefs defense, and one has to be impressed with the way that Ravens are playing football right now.
Well, yeah, and who they played? Miami and Arizona.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't matter.
Yes.
Because I remember when they traded Flacco, I didn't say, well, why are they I didn't say I agree with it. I said, why are they trading Flacco? Because this guy, I don't know if he can get the job done. So I don't care who they played. He's getting the job done. And how about this? He's 5 times better than our own guy, who was a 2nd pick in the draft. Mitch, right now.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. But the escapability is the new NFL. Whether it's Mahomes, whether it's Watson, whether it's, you just got to be careful. I think the thing that takes its toll on people is sacks. And as long as you don't get sacked, you're going to be okay. And I don't see Lamar Jackson getting sacked a whole lot, or Mahomes, or guys that can escape from the pocket. The guys that usually get sacked are the statues. And I don't know how many more pocket passers there's going to be in the NFL in 10 years. It used to be you couldn't win unless you were a pocket passer. Now I'm starting to wonder if you can win with a pocket passer after Brady.
Right.
After Brady. And I know because we got Rivers, you got Stafford, we brought these guys up today. They have never won.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mahomes will win a Super Bowl before he leaves. I think Watson's going to be an MVP before he leaves. So I think the running quarterback's more in vogue now.
It definitely is. And there were always concerns of the running quarterback getting hit, after a run, that they can't take the punishment of a running back and so forth. But you're seeing them, the rules are protecting them because they can slide and they're being smarter about going out of bounds and stuff. So they're reducing the amount of punishment they have. And the college game that's what they're producing is these running quarterbacks, these run option RPO quarterbacks. And so that's what the NFL has to work with. And the traditional drop back passer, like you said, Mike, those are falling out of vogue.
They're falling out of vogue. And you know what? We'll see what happens, as far as what happens during the rest of the season, how many running quarterbacks will actually be hurt.
Right.
It just seems like the guys that are in the pocket are the ones that are getting hurt. Big Ben got hurt. Drew Brees got hurt. So we'll see what happens. I'll tell you what does happen, though. When you call the free line or when you go to Vegas Scores and Odds, I got some baseball up there now. We got an early game up today with Detroit and Baltimore. That's a 3:10 ball game, folks. That's right, pinch me. Day baseball. That's right, on a Monday after NFL. We also got the Jets up tonight. There'll be everybody with the Jets, their opinion on the Jets game. I have the Jets game up there. I have the total up there. We have the side up there. So make sure you go. Plus, we'll have some free picks on the contest line. Not the contest line. What I would like to say, free picks when it comes to who's going to, let's say you just pick up the phone and you go, let's see, let me call this free contest line up. And then you dial it up, right? 1-800-808-3429. 1-800-808-3429. You're going to get something on the Jets game tonight, folks.
Awesome.
I can promise you that. Check out all our handicappers. Check out Tony Sacco. Check out all the other guys, Hollywood. Check out all our guys. Of course, I'm up there. This week I had a mixed bag. 1 and 2, by the way, on the Bears Barroom Vegas Scores and Odds advantage last week. Thank God for under New England. So we'll see what happens this week. I'll be having 3 picks on Wednesday, so it's going to be a good time.
Absolutely. And Wednesday, our start time is 3 p.m. Central, so make sure you join us live or listen to the podcast afterwards. Just go to wherever podcasts are delivered and just type in Bears Ballroom Radio Network, and you will find the Vegas Scores and Odds Advantage with Mike North there. Wanted to talk about the Kansas City-Oakland game. Patrick Mahomes, a name you've brought up a few times, he threw 4 touchdowns yesterday. And you talk about injuries. This guy was playing with a tender ankle that he injured in week 1. This is what he said about the ankle after the game.
Now, there was times where I felt it a little bit, but we did a good job. The training staff did a good job of kind of helping me out all week to get me in the best possible condition. And I thought it held up well during the game, and we made some big plays.
Mike, he's playing with a bum ankle, and he throws 4 touchdown passes. This guy's unbelievable.
When you have a bum ankle and you're 22, it's different than when you have a bum ankle and you're 42.
True that.
You know, I mean, to me, the kid is a remarkable player. He's changing the game as we speak. Sort of reminds me of what Steph Curry did when he came to the Warriors, changed the game of basketball. I think Mahomes has that type of effect. The way that he scrambles, the way that he runs, I think he doesn't hold on to the ball. Very decisive, very aware. You don't hear a peep out of him. Behaves himself. You won't have any issues. I think he's the next big thing in football. I think you got Brady right now, and you got Mahomes, and those are the 2 guys, the young guy versus the old guy. And it might come down to that at the end of the year.
How about it? And the State Farm is already grooming him to replace Aaron Rodgers in those State Farm commercials. They're both.
They can't start fast enough for me.
I hear you. I am tired.
They can't start fast enough. But by the way, they played good. Their defense, Green Bay's defense played well. Minnesota got off to a late start. Green Bay was up to 21-0 before Minnesota decided to play. So you know what? Green Bay, somewhat of a surprise right now. That Bear game inspired them. And after playing the Bear defense, I got to imagine as tough as Minnesota's defense may be, not as tough as the Bears defense. So it was a walk in the park basically yesterday until near the end of the game where Minnesota started to put up some 16 unanswered points. They just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, and there was an incident on the sideline with Aaron Rodgers and the new head coach over there, Matt LaFleur. They were kind of barking at one another, and Aaron Rodgers was asked about that after the game. This is what he said.
It actually wasn't a big deal. He's just, as am I. We're, a little animated at times, but I can't say it was, we were yelling how much we love each other, but we definitely weren't MFing each other or anything. It was talking about the look there and get on the same page.
Mike, they got off to a great start, like you said, 21 points on the first 3 possessions, and then after that, the offense disappeared, and the Vikings got back into that game. And you know how they got back into the game? The running game, Mike. The running game. Matt Nagy, did you hear that? The running game.
Well, Dalvin Cook, I think if Matt Nagy had him, that might be a different story. We don't have anybody like him. But it's frustrating if you have Minnesota getting 4 points. They lose 21-16 in that game. I didn't do anything on that game at Vegas Scores and Odds. I just stayed away from that game. Tough divisional game. Really tough game for them. And in the meantime, how about Detroit beating the Chargers? Mm-hmm. So, you know what? We got a somewhat of a logjam, but Green Bay, a lot of people predicted them to be 11 or 12 wins, and I'm saying to myself, I don't see it. Well, now they only need 10 more. And when I say only need 10 more, I don't mean it like that. That's a lot of wins that you got to have to get to 12, but they got 2-0 right now.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on the Packers, but boy, they've certainly gotten off to a better start than our Chicago Bears. And you were talking about the Detroit Lions. Matt Patricia was commenting on the difference between their opening week game where they blew a lead and didn't finish and ended up in a tie, and yesterday's game where they came from behind with a big touchdown and a big interception by the defense. He talked about those differences week 1 and week 2 right here.
Certainly we're trying to learn from last week, and move forward, which is our biggest thing, is just try to show improvement, and, going forward is just going to be consistency, being able to do that when we need to.
That is so true about every team. They need to be consistent. But I'm not convinced that this Detroit Lions team can be a consistent team and put up double-digit wins this season. What's your thought, Mike?
I agree. I just think that I'll tell you what I watched on not only yesterday, but Saturday. The tackling is so sloppy right now. The over pursuit. Stuff like that.
Yep.
I just see them as 8-8. I see like the guy they played, Stafford and Rivers, can look at each other,
right,
and say basically they're the same guys. And they've played on some football teams where I know Stafford has never had the players that I think he has to have to be successful, but that's his fault. He took all the money. Rivers, same way, and don't forget Gordon and Melvin Gordon is holding out right now for San Diego. I keep calling him San Diego for
Chargers.
By the way, because I keep doing that, they should move back there.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean that's been ridiculous.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
just to make that switch after all these years, too much for my feeble mind. I just think that they mirror each other. Melvin Gordon being out yesterday was a win for him. He's holding out. And, there's nobody that's going to say, well, maybe they win this game if Melvin Gordon's playing. But you know what? Maybe they win this game if Melvin Gordon plays.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. A stronger rushing game would have helped the Chargers against the Detroit Lions. Maybe they would have held on to that lead.
How about those cuts you're playing today? You're on top of it like you're getting it done.
Oh.
You're the blanket in zero weather.
Well, I got a couple of more. Let's see if we can fit them in.
I love it. Let's hit it.
Jacoby Brissett, Indianapolis Colts quarterback, talked about what he has learned about his team now that he's a starter. Yeah, let me play it before.
I praise you. I praise you. Start pressing the buttons offside.
Exactly.
We got some tough guys. We actually got a team, in every phase of the game. It's no quit in this group. You saw that last week, this week. And, we practice hard. We prepare hard for 60-minute games. We go over situations like this every day.
I think that this Colts team, I don't think that they're a playoff team yet, but Jacoby Brissett is not a terrible quarterback. You can win some football games with that guy, and the Colts now have signed him to a 3-year big contract, I believe it is, 3 years, so they have some faith in him.
Well, yeah, and you know what? He's not going to be injured for the most part. He seems to be pretty healthy. Mm-hmm. Andrew Luck, I mean, let's face it, his career was just marred by injury.
Yep.
And you know what? I thought that when they gave him the 3-year deal, I'm going, boy, that's a lot of faith in the backup. But once again, that's a good backup, folks.
Mm-hmm.
That's a guy that has stepped in, gives him a different dimension, doesn't have the arm that Luck has, but has the escapability once again to buy time. If you play with a quarterback like Mahomes or with Brissett or with Watson, okay, or with some of these guys that can scramble, and you're an offensive lineman, you got to love that. You got to absolutely love that. It makes you look better, especially, you know what, when they can buy time. And that's what they do, and that's what this kid does. I thought they played well. I thought that Tennessee crapped the bed. I think the most disappointing loss yesterday was Tennessee's after getting off to a good start in week 1.
Yeah, how about that? NB Dub in the chat room says that he agrees.
I love NB dumb.
He's the man. He agrees with what you're saying about the Colts, but he wants to make sure that they stay under 9.5 wins because as soon as Andrew Luck got injured, he took the under in the 9.5, so he's praying for some more losses on the part of the Colts.
But when Luck retired, they kept it at 9.5.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I mean, right now, don't worry, don't panic. It doesn't matter. Don't start checking. I know that every week, you could end up going, they could be 6-1 and still not make it. But you know what? That's what seasonal bets are all about. But they are playing much better than I thought.
Yeah, indeed. I agree with that. And so in that Jacksonville-Houston game, what a finish there. The Jacksonville coach decides to go for the 2-point conversion in a 13-12 situation. Last play of the game, it does not work, so they end up a loser to the Texans 13-12. After the game, the coach, Doug Marrone, was asked, well, does it help that you're playing on Thursday and that's a quick turnaround? And this is what Marrone said.
Every loss hurts. I mean, it's hard to put a thing on it. So I don't, it's I'm not on to Thursday yet. I'm still on this thing.
I almost feel like he wanted to swear at the guy. I'm in pain.
That sounds like me back in my drinking days at about 1:59 after about 15 scotches. My God. And you know what? I mean, let's be honest about it. They're questioning him giving the ball to Fournette. Fournette almost made it. They made a good play.
Yeah.
They said, why didn't you have more of an option? It's always good to second guess.
Right.
But I thought that Fournette almost got in. They just made a good play and got it done. But yeah, I mean, he didn't know what to say. He preferred probably to have a full week to prepare, to be honest with you, especially after a devastating loss. And it's always tough for these guys to go up in front of the press. I mean, I don't care. Can you imagine you're playing high-stakes poker and you lose a big hand, and then there's somebody sticking a mic in your face? What happened there? You know what I mean?
Yes.
You don't want to hear it.
I know. I almost feel like every team should have a communications director that goes out and handles the questions because players and coaches, they don't want to talk to the press minutes after a game. So maybe you let a professional like
The worst was Cutler. I mean, he'd stand up there and he'd basically say, yeah, we lost. And I'm going to just give you the look of a guy that doesn't give a shit. That's what I'm going to do while I'm telling you it. He was about the worst poster boy for a franchise quarterback I'd ever hear. He'd get up there. He wouldn't look mad. He'd look like that disappointment when the waitress tells you, oh, I forgot your bacon. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he looks down at his plate. I'll go back and get you some. It will take a few minutes. No, don't. You know?
Yes, I hear you. I'm
One of those pouty, crybaby type of things.
I'm imagining the Chicago Bears hiring Mike North to do their post-game press conferences. So, Mike, you go up to the podium after that game yesterday. What do you say to the media?
If I'm the Bears? Or if I'm which team?
If you're the communications director for the Chicago Bears. And
Hey, we got the win. That's what it's about. It was a tough road game. Nobody beats Denver in September. We did. You can look at individual statistics, but guess what? We don't keep wins and losses based on stats. We get them based on winning the game. We're 1-1, and it's a huge game for us to win in September.
1,000,000 times better than Nagy yesterday. I'm not kidding. I heard that entire press conference.
I've been listening to these guys forever. Ask me 5 questions, anything pertaining to anything. I'll come up with the answers. I know the good answers, the bad answers. They got Nagy. Nagy's disappointment. Here, you know what? So far, the guy that's more tarnished, maybe almost as much as Mitch, is Nagy.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not seeing the same genius wizardry that we saw last year.
That is true. It's that whole honeymoon thing with Nagy might be wearing off if this team doesn't start scoring some points.
It would have worn off had they lost yesterday.
Oh, my goodness. You ain't kidding about that. All right, I got one more soundbite from the last game we have not covered, and that's the Atlanta Falcons beating the Eagles on that Sunday night game 24-20. And Dan Quinn, said, the head coach of the Falcons said what you would expect to win, that the turnovers were the difference.
We thought it was going to be about the ball, and both teams had, 3 turnovers or takeaways, however you want to look at it. We ended up scoring 14 off of ours. They scored 9 off of theirs. So we've talked a lot about that this week, about how we can do better in that part of the game, and we certainly intend on doing that. But I was proud of the defense and the special teams for standing up. It was a good play, it was a good punch out.
And it also helps to have Julio Jones on your team.
Oh, what a game he had. I always wonder about him because sometimes he doesn't show up. Man, they gave him a nice contract extension, and he showed up yesterday.
Yeah.
Looked as good as anybody in the game yesterday.
He really, really did. What a phenomenal talent he is. And sometimes, they're going to double or triple team a talent like that, and he doesn't show up. Plus, he's also played with some injuries and stuff. But now he's got a really dependable other wide receiver that makes it harder to double team. Calvin Ridley, he had 8 catches for 105 yards. Jones had 5 for 106 yards. Between the two of them, they had 3 touchdowns. That Matt Ryan passing attack for the Falcons could be something for teams to be concerned with. They are looking pretty good so far. They're off to a 1-1 start. Actually, they lost their first week game, so we'll see about that. What do you think about the Eagles? I know you were kind of high on them, but are you concerned now that they are 1-1?
I took Washington the first week, and they almost knocked them off. And this week, I'm not exactly high on the Eagles. I think they're good. I like Wentz and stuff like that. And we talked about like Julio Jones with another receiver. That's what's happening to Schuster in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Schuster was a much better receiver when Antonio Brown was there because he wasn't being double-teamed. So that's what you're going to see now. I just look at speedsters and that's another thing I'd like to know. Is Allen Robinson, to me he's more of a hybrid. He's more of a possession receiver. He can go deep. But he's more of a possession receiver. The Bears don't have a burner. The Bears don't have an Antonio Brown. The Bears don't have a Schuster. The Bears don't have, these guys that can burn like Julio Jones. So I just think Julio Jones, if they can put it together, I like Quinn. There's just something about Matt Ryan. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't. I really don't, and I like him as a quarterback. He's businesslike. He gets the job done. He's not a lot of flair. Atlanta's just there. You know what I mean, Aldo?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, they've been an okay franchise over the years, but nothing to get excited about.
All right. I promised our listeners that we talk a little baseball, and so let's talk about the Cubs, because the Cubs have really turned on the power. They beat the Pittsburgh Pirates by scores of 16-6, 14-1, and 17-8 in that weekend series. Where did all this power come from, Mike North?
When Pittsburgh's pitching staff showed up.
There you go.
Yeah, look, they did what they had to do. Yep. Now, Rizzo just turned his ankle.
Yeah, how bad is that?
And, that's not good. Mm-hmm. We've had injury. You got Rizzo hurt. You got Baez. You got, Russell got beaten not long ago.
Right.
So, they've had their injuries. But you know what? Nobody's been more injured than the New York Yankees. And they're going to have 100 wins. So, you just got to keep plugging it in. Joe keeps getting it done. They got a big ball game tonight against Cincinnati. Hopefully they'll be able to get it done. Cole Hamels going on the mound. So they just got to keep playing, keep winning. St. Louis tonight, I believe, is playing Washington. Strasburg's on the mound, so it's an opportunity for the Cubs.
Yeah, it really is an opportunity, and the Cubs are playing the Cincinnati Reds, who are 70-80, and the Cubs have had some success against the Reds this season, so they really need this victory, and it's going to be interesting. I'm trying to look for an update report on Rizzo's ankle. I don't think there's anything new to report. We'll probably hear it later, and so what did they say yesterday? It was like they said they hadn't come to a conclusion, right? Right. They were going to do an MRI before Monday's game, so.
So he's not playing tonight.
Yeah, no, he's not going to play at all tonight. The lineups are not out, but I'd be shocked if.
I'd be shocked. Yeah.
All right, so Mike, I think we covered everything on my notes.
Done, buddy. We got it covered like a blanket. What can I tell you? We got it done. We're getting it done. That's what we do. Mondays at 1, Wednesdays at 3. Don't forget Aldo Gandia on Twitter, Mike North, North to North on Twitter. Getting it done, doing what we got to do.
Mike North, I love you. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.
And don't forget Vegas Scores and Odds, folks. Go there right now. We got baseball, we got football, we got the Jets game tonight. Make sure you go there. Check out the free lines. And I'll tell you what, for you folks, I want you to write this stuff down now. Write it down, because if you don't write it down, then you're going to have a problem. Because we got free lines. And what happens is once in a while you go to the free line that's on the front page. This is the one I want you to dial. 1-800-808-3429. 1-800-808-3429. Aldo, always a pleasure.
Always. Talk to you later, Mike.
All right.